And we're back to the Python Institute, this time lab number 3.1.1.5, and we are basically determining whether things are true or false. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Now it says the level of difficulty is fairly easy. Probably the hard thing right here is the fact that this right here is empty. That's right. This is the first time you are going to be creating your very own script from scratch. Pretty much. So let's see what our objectives are here. So you become familiar with the input function. We're kind of familiar with that so far. We're just getting more and more familiar with it. And then become familiar with the comparison operators in Python. All right, comparison operators, there are a couple of them. There is greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and then less than or equal to. And we're going to start using those in our script right here. So the scenario, use one of the comparison operators in Python. Write a simple two-line program that compares the parameter n as input, which is an integer, and prints false if n is less than 100, and true if n is greater than or equal to 100. Then gives us a little comment here, don't use any if blocks. We haven't talked about if blocks yet, but we're going to soon, so find some other way to do it. All right, well, let's talk about these comparison operators here really quick, and let's see what we can do with it. For this, I'm going to go over to the other Python editor here, and because this allows me to do interactive Python. By interactive Python, I mean over here on the right-hand side, I can actually type in here in order to do things. So for instance, I can just simply type in print hello poorly. I can type that in, and then it prints out hello. So I can interactively type things in there and have Python do something on it immediately. So to show you how this works, for instance, I could actually say a equals 50, and then b equals 75, and now I could just simply type print a, and it prints out the output for me. So it's very much interactive. It's as soon as I type something, it runs automatically. What we can do here is we can actually start looking at these comparative operators and what kind of output they actually provide for us. So I can actually do a print a greater than b. Greater than, that's just the arrow, the little arrow key on my keyboard. Next to the letter M, there's a less than and a greater than. If you think of it as the alligator is eating the biggest one. That was the way I was taught as a kid. You got the alligator, right? However you draw an alligator. That's a snake. But they got teeth. And the alligator always tries to eat the largest of the two items. So therefore A is the greater of the two, is the larger of the two. So therefore A greater than B, maybe. So if I hit enter now, it's going to actually evaluate these. And it's going to say, is A greater than B? So I hit enter, and it returns back false. Well, A is 50, B is 75, A is not greater than B. Okay, well, let's try the other way around. A less than B, close parentheses. And it says true, A is in fact less than B. Now there's a situation where neither of these are true, and that would be if both of them are equal to the same thing. So here I just set, A was already set to 50, now I set B to 50. So now if I do a print A less than B, it's false. And a print A greater than B, it's also false. In fact, what's happening here is it's equal to. So I could instead do A less than or equal to B. And now it says true. So this whole true false option true false output is what allows me to be able to say whether something is true or not with these comparison operators. So the script was saying we want to know if something is less than 100, and then true if it is greater than or equal to 100. Well, let's see how that works. Print a greater than or equal to 100. Now, right now, a is 50. Therefore, a is less than 100. And did I say that right? False if less than 100, true if greater than or equal to. Okay, so then if I set a to 150 and I rerun that again, now it should say true. And because it's greater than or equal to, if I set a to 100 and rerun it, it should also say true. By the way, there is a difference between greater than and equal to as opposed to equal and greater than. It doesn't understand that one. So you always have to make sure it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. All right, so that right there, however, is pretty much half of the commands that we're looking for. Let's see, let's look back at our scenario. Use the comparison operators, write a simple 2-line program that takes the parameter n as an input, which is an integer, and prints false if n is less than or true if greater than or equal to. Okay, so we need to start off with the letter n. We need to create a variable called the letter n. N is a horrible name for a variable just because it's not very descriptive. What is n? I don't know. If I called this temporary variable, if I called this, my comparison integer, if I called it anything else, it would have been a whole lot more descriptive. But they decided n. Okay, so n is, and I need to get an input. It specifically says an input from the end user. So let's go ahead and say input, enter a number, and add a space in there just to be sure. All right, so it takes a parameter n as input, which is an integer. Ooh, I have to confirm this is an integer. Previously, we worked with floats, and we used the float function in order to make sure we were dealing with float numbers. In this case, I want to use the int function, so int, parentheses, and parentheses at the end, in order to make sure I'm working with an integer. All right, so that gets me my number. That gets me my value of n. Next thing I need to do is print false if it's less than 100 and true if greater than or equal to. So let's go ahead and start off with the print. And we kind of had it, I said right there, a greater than or equal to 100. So print n greater than or equal to 100. Let's see, so let's actually walk through this, make sure it works properly in our minds. So up here, we start off with an input. So we give it the number 99. Converts it to an integer, so it's not 99.0. It is, in fact, just 99. It then takes that and it says, okay, is 99 greater than or equal to 100? No, 99 is not greater than or equal to 100, and therefore it will return false. Well, let's give it a shot. See, so they start off with 55, and the number is false. Do it again with 99. False. 100. True. Oh, I don't think it likes me. There we go. 101. And yeah, I don't think the website likes me. That's fine. We'll do it over here. So 101, true. Let's go and run it. And I think the last one was a -5, which returns false. -5 is definitely less than 100. In fact, if I do a -5,000, it's still going to be less than 100. So that seems to have gotten everything there, other than the fact that it timed out on me. Was there any other? Plus 123. That's an interesting one. By default, all numbers are assumed to be positive. But now they're saying, let's confirm it, plus 123. And that one's true. Out of curiosity, what happens if I type in 101.5 and it gives me an error because that is a float and I'm trying to convert it to an integer? All right, hey, that's kind of good. That's kind of nice. All right, so there you have it. That was lab number 3115 of the Python Institute.